Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to Friday Night Podcast. We're here at 81st and Yale in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Borders Books and Cafe. And we're joined once again by National Master Chuck Gunru. Evening, Chuck.
Good evening, Jim. Good to be here.
All right. So this evening we're going to talk about anchoring this pawn on f6 and surrounding the king with heavy pieces and forcing the mate. So we've got our first pattern we want to show here this evening. We've got about 4 panels, and hopefully I can keep it all in order. We can keep things straight here. And let's go ahead and talk about this pattern and go ahead and execute a few, and we'll go through some more games.
Okay, we're going to look at this from the white side. We're always going to, white's going to have the pawn on f6.
Okay.
So, of course, you can do it with black too if the pawn were on f3.
Right.
Or attacking. Otherwise, so the patterns work. In the particular panel here, this is a simple pattern. Obviously, if there's not a check involved and black gets the move, black's got extra equipment, and white will probably get checkmated very rapidly.
Okay.
So our h1 is just not in the card, so we have to play queen takes pawn check. Very forcing move.
Right. King has to take back, and then that's it. So let's look at that
over.
pattern
That's
one
our
more
pattern.
time. So in this instance, with this g7 square covered by the f6 pawn, you have to force, like you said, you have to force the move. So now he has to take, he takes, and that's the pattern.
That's the pattern. So
Okay.
let's go on to panel 2 and see how the pattern plays out.
Let me see, is this number 2?
Sure, that's number 2.
Okay.
This is a little slower. We're going to go ahead and put our pawn on f6. Queen's
right.
guarding the pawn.
Right.
Black's all tied up. That pawn is very, just takes away the mobility. So Black tries to free his game by trading and plays queen to d6. Of course, White would like to have a rook down there on a d8, so he brings his rook to d1 in order to recapture.
And now he's got the rook down there on d8 like you talked about. We've got the pawn in here at f6. So we've got all the ingredients there to go ahead and move forward. So
yeah, it's black on move, and there's nothing constructive.
Right.
He's out of moves. He's tied up. The f6 is stifling.
So now you just double the rooks up here.
Yes.
King really can't, even moving a pawn out here to try and escape really doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do anything. He just
because
loses
if he
a
takes,
piece.
that mates him. Or if instead he tries to escape out, he survives for a few more moves, but
Yeah, he's
not
a rook
easily.
down.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to get out of this. So here we see White just eventually strangling Black and mating him. The theme, once again, this pawn on f6, guarding this g7 square, and then bringing the heavy pieces in to finish the kill.
Yes. Now that's a little slower example. We're going to move
Right.
on to the next panel, and it's just outright go for the throat.
Let me see if we can do this one. That's not the one I want. Check and see if this will get us what we want here. Chuck, is this
That's
it?
one we want. This
Okay.
one's straightforward.
Okay, so fortunately the engine's turned on here, so it shows us what our first move is going to be. And again, we see the same pattern here.
And after f6, there's really not an answer. No,
Right.
The dark square defenders on the other side. The rooks are ineffective for defending against this type of threat.
Right,
And we have coordination between the pawn on f6 and heavy pieces again. But we
right,
had to do a lot of clearing to get there. We
Right.
had to take the bishop with check, and then
Right.
take the knight with check, reducing all the defenders. And then
right.
the
So
queen
you still
comes
have
in.
the same theme of pawn right here on f6 and the heavy pieces surrounding. And in this case, it happens to be a queen, but it could be some different pieces there.
Yes.
So same theme once again. Well, let's take a look at our last one. Now,
We're going to go to panel 4. Panel 4 was an actual game, and in this game, you notice that black's underdeveloped, but how does white take advantage of this underdevelopment?
right,
The knight's threatened, queen's active for black's side. All black would need is one move here. If we can just get a move in, but it's white on move.
So what did white play in the real game?
In the real game, he played NG3,
Knight over to here, attacking
and then
the queen.
it was just a long game after that.
Really?
But he had a
Okay.
shot. What do you think the shot was, Jim?
Well, I'm not as good a player as you, Chuck, but I'm looking at knight to f6.
Well, let's play it.
Okay.
You're on the right trail.
So now he takes back with the pawn, and now we've got the pawn on f6. I'm beginning to see the theme here.
The theme, f6, queen takes rook, king takes, rook down mate. But we could play b. Oh, there was a double threat.
Yep. So
So
if
much
you,
for engines.
yeah, really. So this one comes in here, and the choices are either he can play bishop to b7, trying to give himself, some attack, and you just play the queen back here, or the other choice is this queen can come over here and now protect against this mate, in which case you just go ahead and take the rook off, and there
And
you
his
go.
mate. And the pattern works.
Yep. Once again, we have a heavy piece down here by the king attacking. We have the pawn on f6, and there's nothing black can do about it. And you're right, white was underdeveloped, but he had the active pieces in the right places. So
this is another useful pattern to add to your tournament repertoire.
all right, that's great. Well, listen, Chuck, we appreciate your time and coming out here and doing this for us. And if you folks out there listening want to come by here on Friday nights, where Chess Club always meets over here at Borders at 81st and Yale, Tulsa, Oklahoma. So thanks, Chuck. And pleasant chess to everybody, and good night.